Yeah, right. We are going to be in Genesis. Not appropriate. We are going to be in Genesis. I don't know how any of you guys are going to know where we are if you keep talking over me. We are going to be in Genesis chapter 7.
I'm there. Verse 1.
Starting in verse 1. All right.
Hey, someone drew in this one. It says Rito.
It says read. Like read this. Like pay attention to this.
Where is number 5? I'm right next to it.
Right here.
Oh, it's on right here.
Am I mad? No. Not mad. I'm just trying to get you guys to calm down. Was I crying?
You're crying.
No. I'm not crying. You're crying. Okay. Okay. Chapter 7.
Verse 1.
You don't have to say verse 1 because it's just chapter 7.
No. Yes.
Is everybody there?
Yes.
If you have never opened a Bible, all you have to do is open the cover, past the preface, past the table of contents. You'll see Genesis. You make sure the big number says 7, and you found it. Super easy for anybody to find. Okay.
Is it me?
Everybody, calm down. So, this morning we are going to be, actually, what did we discuss last week? What did we discuss last week for those who were here? If you weren't here, then, I'm not asking you, right? What'd you say? What did we talk about last week, guys? Sawyer? Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
Right? What happened with Cain and Abel?
They killed each other.
Miss Sadie.
Sorry. What I said.
That's right. Cain got jealous that God looked upon Abel with favor because he favored Abel's sacrifice, because Cain's sacrifice wasn't the best of what he had. It's just what he had. Right? He walked over to wherever he had his stuff planted, kind of picked some stuff up on the ground and offered to God and said, oh, here you go. Where Abel went out and he was intentional. He got the best sheep, the best animals that he was raising. He got the best of the young. He killed them and offered them to God. And God looked upon that sacrifice more favorably. God told Cain that he needed to correct his attitude, and rather than correct his attitude, he got more mad, and then he carried that anger out upon his brother. That's God. That's why I said I need you guys to pray for that upset, that irritable spirit, because God does not look upon a spirit of wrath favorably. Because if you hold wrath in your heart, that's the same like if you, Jesus says, if you hate your brother, you've already killed him. Right? Because the Jewish people were holding to the 10 Commandments, strictly to the 10 Commandments. They were holding on to it super tight. Thou shalt not murder. And as long as they didn't kill anybody, they thought, I'm fine. And Jesus said, no, even if you look upon your brother and you hate your brother, you've committed murder in your heart. And what is murder? Murder is you're killing, you're reducing the worth of God's created being. God created that person. And when you murder them, you're removing that creation from this earth. If you hate somebody, you're removing that person from your heart. Right? You might not physically be removing them from this earth, but in your heart, you've devalued them. And God hates that. He doesn't abide for that. God loves each and every one of us. That's why he sent Jesus to die on the cross, is because he wanted a way for all of us to have a relationship with him. So that's what we were talking about last week, was Cain and Abel and Cain's heart posture, how he had posture just means how you hold yourself. So like good posture is standing up straight, shoulders back, slightly apart, right? Chin level to the floor. Heart posture is it's how you hold yourself emotionally. So it's, I'm not prideful. I don't think I'm doing any of this on my own. I know these are all blessings from God. This table makes me feel really trapped. I don't like that it's set up. That's fine. Yeah, see, now I feel like I'm favoring the left side of the room. Your right side. So that's what we were talking about with Cain and Abel. This week, we are going to run through, if you read chapter 5 is, I think it's chapter 5, is the lineage. Yeah, so it's the descendants of Adam. It's where we get from Adam to Noah. A key person we need to highlight in that lineage is Enoch. Enoch was a faithful man of God, and it says he walked with God until he was not. That means God raptured him to heaven. Enoch is one of those people that never experienced death. There are two people in the Bible that didn't experience death. You had Enoch, who walked with God until he was not, and Elijah, who was raptured up in a chariot of fire. So Enoch was a great man of God and walked with God until he was not. We end up getting down to Noah. If you'll notice, in that lineage, it says this dude lived until he was 900-something years old. This dude lived until he was 900-something years old. They lived a long time before the flood, right? Because there was a moisture blanket around the earth. It had never rained. They had never seen rain. They didn't know what rain was. There didn't need to be rain because there was, like, when you wake up in the morning and you see it's slightly foggy outside, Miss Courtney always says that looks like zombie apocalypse weather, because that's anytime there's a zombie movie, the opening scene, it's always foggy, and then you have these corpses come shambling out of the fog, right? Well, that was the entire earth. It was wrapped in a moisture blanket. It didn't need to rain. It was getting moisture consistently from the blanket that covered the atmosphere. And so with that, the UV rays weren't penetrating through that blanket to hit people, so they weren't aging as quickly, right? As soon as the moisture blanket's gone, we're getting fully blasted by the sun, and then all of a sudden lifespan drops dramatically. Yes, ma'am?
Isn't the fog also like putting human outside too, right?
What?
Isn't like also putting human outside, right?
What do you mean putting human outside?
Like the fog, every time like it's foggy or something, it's human outside.
Yeah, it's human, right? And so the environment was more hospitable, right? There's probably a lot more like a jungle than, there wasn't deserts, there wasn't polar areas. The entire earth was like one big jungle, right? It was really moist, really humid, great for cultivating crops, so people were eating great. They weren't getting blasted by UV, so they just lived a really long time. They had whole foods, good environment to live in. They were probably getting proper sleep, because at this time they weren't eating meat. They were vegetarians. They were eating what they grew. And so in turn, the animals weren't eating them. And so you had a long lifespan. Like today, there's areas in India where they've deforested so much and taken out so many smaller species that tigers had to shift. Instead of being able to hunt this animal that they used to hunt, it's now extinct. So now tigers started hunting people, right? That's polar bears in the North Pole. There's very little for them to eat up there. And all of a sudden man came and they went, hey, that dude looks pretty tasty, right? And so they started hunting men. That's back in the day, that didn't happen, right? Animals and people coexisted peacefully. They were all living and eating in the garden, or not the garden, but eating on the earth, in their gardens, I guess. So now we get to, this is a period of peace. So God is just letting what's going to happen on the earth happen, right? Cain and Abel. So Adam and Eve fell. Cain killed Abel. People are just rapidly, I guess I say rapidly, but it's like 10 generations of people that live 900 years. So you're talking a couple thousand years of people living for themselves, right? They're looking out for number one. They're not looking out for anybody else. And we constantly, as you get down the line and as people continue to live that way, Isaac and Roman, as people continue to live that way, they care less and less for their fellow man. And so now we get to Noah. And in Noah's days, people are debased. Debased means they're evil, they're wicked. God looks at them with disdain. because they're killing each other. They're doing lots of bad things that God doesn't like people to do. Living sexually immoral lives. They're killing people. They're living for themselves. They've forgotten God and what he's done for them, except for one person, and that's Noah. So actually I'm going to start in chapter 6, verse 9. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. Noah was the father of three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So here we see Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on the earth. You got to think, Adam and Eve had a ton of kids, right? It wasn't just Cain and Abel and Seth. They had tons of kids because they lived for hundreds of years. They were able to have kids for hundreds of years. Those kids had kids for hundreds of years. Those kids had kids. So there's quite a population, and God's looking down on this population of people, and he sees one righteous person. That's Noah. Imagine how sad that is for him. Looking down on an earth full of created beings, and only one person remembers and honors God, and that's Noah. And he's trying to raise his family in that way. That is a charge from God to fathers, right? To the men of the household. That's always been a charge. Not to diminish women's role, but that's always been a charge as a man. So boys, you need to pay attention to this, is that we're supposed to walk uprightly and righteous before God. Right? We're supposed to remain humble, but we're supposed to keep God's law in our heart. Because we're responsible for our family. Because if I love and honor my wife, and she feels that love, she feels that honor, then she is more able, she's more free to then follow and honor God. Because she doesn't look upon God, who I use as my yardstick for life, what I hold everything up to. She doesn't look at that with disdain. Because there's a lot of guys who use God to do terrible things. And so in her eyes, if I was that way, she wouldn't look at God as a great thing. She would look at God as just another way that I'm keeping her down. Right? Or my kids, when they look at me, they know that I love them. And that even though I discipline them and I'm hard on them, that I do it because I want them to be good, godly men when they grow up. Or your parents want you to be good, godly women when you grow up. So this is a charge to men. We need to keep God above all. And that's people who, well, whatever. No, God above everything. I love my wife. I don't love her more than God. I love my kids. Don't love them more than God. I don't love them equally as God. I love God above all else. Above all is my relationship with Jesus Christ. And then every relationship follows after that, which is the way it should be, because I cannot have a good horizontal relationship if I don't have a good vertical relationship. And that was Noah. Noah had a fantastic vertical relationship, and that extended out to his family. Now God, verse 11, saw the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I'll wipe them all out from the earth. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat. Here we're going to see a bunch of specifications for how he was supposed to make this boat. 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. That'd be about 3 stories tall, right? Each story is 15 feet. If you look from outside a building, every time you see a set of windows, that's about 15 feet. And so this boat is 3 stories tall. So if you see a 3-story building, where would be a 3-story building in Magnolia? The medical complex across from Pizza Hut, that Magnolia Pharmacy Wellness Center, that building, that's about 3 stories tall. So that's a.
I was about to say mine, but I only have 2 stories.
So that's a good marker to keep in your mind. When you look at that, that's about how tall that boat was. It was 750 feet long, which is, or 450 feet long, which is long, crazy long. I don't know. I have no size comparison for that. What's a football field? 100 yards, 120 with the end zones. How many feet are in a yard? Huh? 10 feet a yard?
What? No.
for
Huh?
each yard on a football
No,
field?
for the football field, no.
It's 3 feet a yard.
It's 100 feet.
Okay, so that would be 360. So that's not even as long as the arc. It would be 100 feet past that, so almost like a football field and a half long, 3 stories tall. And then what did it say? How wide? 75 feet wide, which is wide. That's, see, 45 is 3 stories plus another 30 would be 2 more stories. It's five stories wide. So it's wide. Big wide boy. Yes, ma'am.
So I went to we were on a road trip and I went to
The Ark in Kentucky? Yeah, that's super cool. I want to go see that. Yeah. And it shows exactly, yeah. Did you get to walk inside? How small did you feel? About this big, huh? Because it's a huge boat. Yeah. So 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Verse 17, look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on the earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. Be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for the animals. So Noah did everything exactly as God commanded him. When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, go into the boat with your family, for among all the people of the earth I can see that you alone are righteous. Take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice. Take 1 pair of each kind of the others. Also take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and female in each pair to ensure that life will survive on earth after the flood. 7 days from now, I'll make the rains pour down from the earth, and it'll rain for 40 days and 40 nights until I've wiped from the earth all the living things I have created. So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. Okay, so NLT leaves out, and I don't know if it's in New King James or it's the King James Version. It leaves out the timeline. This isn't quick, right? Noah built an ark that it took him a long time. And he built the ark out in the middle of nowhere, right? They had never seen rain. There's probably bodies of water, but they're not like, he's not anywhere near one. It's not like in Magnolia where we're only a couple hours from Galveston, right? He's like in Wyoming, right? He's like in the middle of nowhere building this giant boat. Just some random dude, full beard, probably looked kind of crazy, just building a boat talking about rain. How crazy do you think the people are or how crazy do you think the people think he is that live around him? Right? He's just, why? What are you even talking about? What is rain? What are you talking about? Water's going to fall from the sky. But the entire time Noah's building this ark, the Bible calls him a preacher. So he's the original street witness, right? He's out there telling the people, you need to turn from your ways. God's bringing a flood. Everybody's going to be wiped off the face of the earth. And still, up until the day that Noah and his family are taken on the ark, nobody listens to him. This is how it feels sometimes for us to live out in the world, is even though we know what's coming, even though we know what God has done in our life, even though we know the ultimate destruction that's coming in Revelation in the end times, right? We all know about what's going to happen with the tribulation period, and we try and convey that to people. Sometimes people look at us like we're crazy. What are you even talking about? What do you mean that a star is going to fall from the sky and poison a third of the earth's water? What do you mean that locusts are going to come up from the ground and they're going to eat all the crops so we have a famine and a third of the population is going to be wiped out that way? Like the Bible talks about in the end times, it's going to get real bad for people. Caden. The Bible talks about in the end times, it's going to get real bad for people real fast. Right? And apart from that, once they die and they depart from this earth, it's eternal separation from God. That's one thing that I had never plugged together until recently doing the residency class that I'm doing, was that God is 3 things we know for sure, right? He's omnipresent, he's omniscient, and he's omnipotent. That means he's everywhere, all the time, all at once. That's omnipresent. He's omniscient, means he's all-knowing. There's no knowledge outside of what he knows. And he is omnipotent, means he is all-powerful. And so omnipresent, God is everywhere all at once. In hell, in the lake of fire, when people are at the end times and they are suffering, fully, eternally separated from God, he is still there. But his face is turned away. We see a representation of that when Jesus is hanging up on that cross. And he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because the entire time he's walking this earth, right, he was in close communion with God. He had felt the love of his Father the entire time he was walking that earth. And then he's hanging on that cross, and in the moment, he's taking on all of our sins. That's not past people's sins, that's our sins too. In the future, those people's sins. He's taking all of sin for all of mankind on him at once. And in that moment, he is the pinnacle of unrighteousness. A perfect, righteous God cannot exist in the same space as an unrighteous being. And so God turns away from Jesus. That's the first time he has ever not felt perfect communion with his Father, was hanging on that cross. Doesn't mean that God departed. God turned away. And that's exactly what it's going to be in the end times. God's going to turn away from those people. They're going to be suffering for eternity. God won't know them. And so that's what we need to go out and tell. You don't need to go tell people that, because you'll sound just as crazy as Noah with the rain, right? But that's the Great Commission when Jesus tells the apostles and the disciples, go forth to all corners of the globe, right? Go and make disciples of all nations. Because we want as many people to come with us to heaven as we can get. That's one soul saved is one more person that's not spending eternity apart from God. And it's not just the fear of suffering, but it's the love that we get from God. It's the enjoyment of being God's child. Right? Even though I experience hard times in my life still, just like everybody else, that's the Proverbs say it rains on the just and unjust alike. Even though I experience those things just as unbelievers experience, I have a hope beyond this. So even though I may go through hard times now, I know my hope lies in heaven. That one day when I leave this earth, I'm going to spend eternity with my loving Father in heaven. So we're going to continue on. What time is it? Almost done? Okay. So, go into the boat, take your family among all the people of the earth. I can see that you alone are righteous. Verse 2. Take with you verse 6. Yeah, we'll go to 6. Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. He went on board the boat to escape the flood, he and his wife and his sons and their wives. With them were all various kinds of animals, those approved for eating and sacrifice, those that were not. Along with the birds, small animals that scurry along the ground, they entered the boat in pairs, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. After 7 days, the waters of the flood came and covered the earth. When Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the second month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and rain fell in... hold on, sorry. I have to turn the page. So I have a Bible that's both. It is the Holy Bible and the Santa Biblia. And I almost started reading in Spanish, and you guys would have got real confused there. Mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day, Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic, wild, large, small, along the birds of every kind. 2 by 2 they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and female of each kind entered, just as God commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind them. That's crazy to me. So he builds an ark with a big opening on the side, no plan to shut it. Right? This is a big door. It's not a little door, right? It's not a little door he can shut and hit the deadbolt, because elephants and stuff got to get through this. And they don't have cranes, they don't have like big heavy machinery and stuff like that to move these things. So Noah's building a boat out in the wilderness. Makes sense to no one. And then he's building it with a door so big he can't shut. How smart do you think he looks to these people? Right? He's building a big boat with a big hole in the side. one, I've never seen rain. I don't know what this is going to look like. But two, that thing's not going to float. It's got a big hole in the side of it. But Noah, remaining faithful, because the Lord told him exactly how to build it, and he follows that to the T, doesn't question, and God rewards his faithfulness in the end. Right? Noah and the ark is a great representation. The ark is a representation of Jesus Christ in our lives. Noah is a representation of how we should live our life, faithful that Jesus will carry us through to the other side. Even though it looks ridiculous to people. Even though, because people will go, well, sure, maybe there's an afterlife, but how is this dude that died on a cross going to get you there? Right? They see holes in that logic. Well, that dude died. Well, he raised from the dead. I've never seen anybody raised from the dead. You sound like a crazy person. But we know and we have faith that Jesus Christ, his sacrifice and his resurrection from the dead is what gets us through to the other side. Is it what gets us to heaven? That personal relationship, placing him as Lord of your life, is what will get you through to the other side. Okay. So, verse 17. Sure, we'll run through the rest of the chapter. For 40 days, the floodwaters grew deeper, covering the ground, lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher, covering the ground, higher and higher. Above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on the earth died, birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people. Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth. People, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, birds of the sky, all were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat. And the floodwaters covered the earth for 150 days. That's where we're going to end today. The earth covered in water. Noah, his wife, his sons, and their wives, all stuck on a boat with way too many animals. Right? I got 3 dogs, 2 cats, and I can tell you sometimes those 5 animals feel like too many animals. This dude's got tons of animals, right? And everything that goes along with it. So, they're stuck on a boat. That's where we're ending this week. Yes, Isaiah. I said Isaiah. Yep. No, I said Isaiah. Shh. Every living thing on dry ground. He didn't take fish. Yes, sir. Every living thing that walked on dry ground. I mean, they probably did, right? They've never seen trees. You're just a fish swimming along, and all of a sudden you see an oak tree. That's going to be different, right? Yeah, I mean, right. You're placing cognizant thought on animals. Yes, sir. More room to swim? They're like, yes, finally. Okay, guys, we're going to break into small groups very quickly. We probably won't get to run through any questions. But girls in the back, guys in the front. I mean, go.
No, we don't. We never do. Maybe that's a better thing.
Girls in the back. Guys in the front. No. Isaac. No.
But I do know that it's one of the
Excuse me. Go. Guys in the front.